Hey, check out this Atari 2600 game. Wow, I love it. This game is not a terrible, weird, janky mess. I know, I just love Atari 2600 games. Yes, all of them. No bad ones at all. And the graphics are great. I sure hope my mom buys me an Atari 2600 and a bunch of games for it. Yeah, right. They're all so fun. Yeah. Atari 2600, the games on it are all pretty good and fun. Hey there, TechDweeb here. How's it going? Thanks for clicking on the video today. Story time. When I was a little dweeb, I was probably like 7 or 8. I was a Nintendo nut. I was obsessed with Nintendo, but I only had like maybe 3 or 4 games for it by this point. And then a kid from school told me about these cartridges that had like 10 games. 10 games on one cartridge. Little TechDweeb wanted one of these so bad, simply because I wanted games. And growing up in Moose Poop, North Ontario, there was no way that my poor mom would have a hope and heck of finding one of those. So on my birthday, she told me that she tried to find a 10 games in one cartridge, but she couldn't find one. However, she found something else at a garage sale. It was an Atari 2600, and it had a freaking box of games with it, like 40 or 50 games. I actually fell in love with the 2600. I got extra controllers so I could play multiplayer games, and I added more garage sale game piles to my collection. I think I had like 4 copies of Yar's Revenge at one point. Now, lots of people say that the 2600 sucks, and that the games aren't fun, and there were a lot of dud games. Like a lot of duds. But I think that there are lots of games that people try today that don't seem fun at first, but they're a lot more fun when you learn how to play them. If you want to explore the library of the Atari 2600, make sure you download the manuals for the games and give them a read. You might find that you actually really like this or that game if you go in with the right info. Or the game will still suck. But hey, at least you tried. Today, I'm going to show you my personal top 7 Atari 2600 games. Why 7 and not 10? Because shut up, that's why. These are games that I actually like and play on my retro doodads. Some of them I had when I was a little dweeb, some I discovered later, but all of them have the official TechDweeb seal of not the worst game ever, and you should try it. Let's start with a banger, River Raid. I actually did have this one as a kid, but I didn't like it back then. I think it's because I was terrible at it. Little TechDweeb just wasn't into vertical shmups the way I am today. That kid just wanted to press buttons and see a character jump around, not carefully thread a tiny jet through a murder river while managing fuel. These days, I appreciate it way more. The whole game is just this long, skinny river, and it somehow never gets boring. You're shooting boats and helicopters and bridges and dodging walls and watching that fuel gauge creep down while you decide if you're gonna refuel like a responsible adult or blow up the fuel tanks, because explosions are fun. And on top of all that, this was made by Carol Shaw, who is considered the first female game designer, and she did the design and the programming herself. A particularly brilliant piece of design innovation was that she got around the 2600's cartridge size by having the level design and the enemy distribution based on a math formula instead of pre-programmed. That's right, this game is like the grandma of procedurally generated games. How cool is that? So yeah, kid me had kinda slept on this one, but modern 40-year-old basement dweller dweeb me thinks that River Raid is fun as heck. I actually fire this one up all the time. This is Enduro, and I didn't discover this until later in life when I got into emulation, but I know little TechDweeb would have eaten this game up. I was always a sucker for any sort of faux 3D effect. Still am, actually. I think this game looks great, considering this is the 2600 we're talking about. This game is twitchy and fast as heck. It's one of those games where you're scared to blink, stuff comes up on you so fast. I kind of think of this as like an early example of the F-Zero kind of gameplay style. I like how the land changes as you journey through this world. The sun goes down and there's fog and then snow. The weather effects actually work surprisingly well to get across what they need to. All you need to do is pass enough cars before the day ends, but it's easier said than done, unless you get in the zone. I swear this game just does something to my brain. The intensity almost turns into this like cozy rhythm, and then the rest of the world fades away while I weave through traffic at breakneck speeds through this weird retro future landscape. I never hear this game talked about, but it's easily one of my all-time favorites, and I promise it's worth taking this one for a ride. This is Moonsweeper, and I think I had this game. It feels really familiar, but I might be mixing it up with a different game. I don't know. But I do know that I like it now. I guess this one feels kind of like an early version of like maybe Space Harrier or even Star Fox. It's not like graphically impressive, but the style is bang on. It looks a lot better than lots of 2600 games, I can say that much. Like, look at how you start in space with asteroids and ships and stuff, and then you swoop down to the moon and start skimming around on the surface. Your ship has a shadow underneath to show the elevation, and the obstacles kind of have a perspective thing. There's a perspective effect on the level. I love how it flips between these kind of two different gameplay styles. You got big open space and then tight, dangerous trench run, and the graphics set the vibe so well. There's a lot of complexity here that you rarely see in 2600 games. And on top of that, it's actually fun. And when you get into the groove, hopping from moon to moon and rescuing folks and blasting off at the last second, man, it just tickles that early arcade part of my brain. It's one of those games that I almost don't want to talk about too much because I like that it still feels like a secret. This game is pretty well known, I think, and that's fine. This isn't a hidden gems list, it's just my personal favorites. And this one is well loved. It's called Demon Attack, and this is one that I actually had as a kid and totally loved. It's just non-stop blasting weird alien bird things out of the sky. Demons, I guess, but they don't really look like demons. Although I guess I've never actually seen an actual demon, so maybe they do really look like this. I don't know. My mom was not a big fan of this game though. The satanic panic of the 80s was real, and the word demon on the cartridge was enough to make her worried about what kind of dark forces I was inviting into the living room. She'd be behind me making disapproving mom noises, and meanwhile, I'm sitting 3 inches from the TV, happily getting vaporized by neon seagulls from space. What I always liked about Demon Attack is how alive the enemies feel. They swoop in these sharp, twitchy patterns and then split apart and then reform, and you're trying to read their movement, and it feels way more dynamic than a lot of other early shooters, where everything just kind of floats around in straight lines. Looking back, it's actually a pretty important shooter on the 2600 too. The developers really squeezed a lot of personality out of the kind of tired old genre, and I actually do see this game being mentioned in Atari 2600 discussions today, so it's obviously well loved. I have to start this description by showing you the box art. How charming is that little underwater action scene? That is top tier, adorable 80s thrift store energy. And you have to read the manual for this one. It's so charming. You can tell the devs poured their heart and soul into this one. I only discovered this game when I got into emulation, and I know little TechDweeb would have loved this one. The game is pretty dang simple. You're cruising around in your little sub, zapping enemy subs and sharks, scooping up divers, and popping up for air to refill your oxygen. Nice patterns to the enemies that get harder over time. It's simple, but it feels really nice to play. I won't say that the graphics are good, but the overall design is easy to read and the colors are great. Very cozy, classic Activision rainbow vibes. Gameplay-wise, this is basically an underwater version of a Defender-style game. It has the same basic design and rhythm, but it's its own thing. I love simple arcade-style games, and this one actually reminds me of a modern indie-style arcade game that I like called Aqua Kitty Milk Mine Defender. This is like that game's great-grandma. I really like games like this. It's called Crackpots, and it's just very simple, but the core gameplay is challenging and fun, and the theme is something that I can recognize. This one's just simple. You play as a little gardener dude on the rooftop, shuffling back and forth and dropping flower pots on waves of bugs crawling up the side of a building. No lasers, no power-ups, just gravity and insect vengeance. When you line up a pot just right and bonk down a whole column of bugs, it feels so good. And then when you miss and you watch them keep climbing, I feel way more panic than I should from a simple old 2600 game. As a kid, I thought it was kind of goofy, but now I really appreciate how clever it is. It's an early example of taking a shooter game idea and twisting the theme to make something new. Enemies move vertically while you're up top dealing with timing and spacing instead of shooting straight upward, and if too many bugs get through, they literally nibble your building down a level, just like real life. It's not famous like Pitfall or Yar's Revenge, but I think this one should be on your list if you're looking for 2600 games to play. It's weird and it's tight and it's quick and it holds up as a great little kind of arcadey high score chasing kind of game. This is Frogs and Flies, a game that I loved as a kid, and I love today. This game is basically my entire personality distilled down to an Atari 2600 game. because frogs are my favorite animal. If you put a frog in a game, I'm at least 30% more likely to love it, scientifically speaking. It is stupid simple, but fun as heck. You're just a frog on a lily pad in a little swamp, jumping around, eating bugs. That's the whole thing. No power-ups, no plot twists, no skill tree, no seasons pass. Although I would totally buy a seasons pass for this game if I could. You just hop, you stick out your tongue, and you eat the bugs. Honestly, what a good life. This frog has it figured out better than I do. The real magic with this one is multiplayer. So many Atari games that still hold up are the ones you can play with a friend. Because even the cheesiest game gets instantly better when you play it with a friend that you can trash talk when you steal each other's flies. I also love how the scene slowly changes while you play. The day progresses and turns into evening and then night, and then everything gets quiet and moody. It's such a tiny touch, but it makes this little pond feel like a real place. I'm adding this pond to my list of in-game happy places. It's right up there with the campfire in Ultima 4. And that's it. That's all I have for you today. Just a handful of Atari 2600 games that I actually like and actually play on my little retro doodads. My list was way longer than I have time to show you today. I have a bunch more to talk about, so if you want more weird, old, janky, yet charming Atari 2600 games in your life, you know what to do. Get yourself subscribed so you don't miss those. And now, I want to hear from you. Tell me your favorite Atari 2600 games, the stuff you grew up with or discovered later. Let's have a hot, steamy 2600 game love fest down there in the comments. And thanks for hanging out with me and listening to me ramble about these silly old games. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being you. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye.